Hello and welcome to the second episode of Dotted Bridges, a podcast exploring our evolving perspectives about life, culture, and everything else in between. I am your host, Folashade Anozie. On this episode, we are discussing culture, spirituality, traditional African religion, and the importance of reframing narratives about the African continent. My guest is Oluwo Olawole Olakunle. He is a young Ifa priest, tech enthusiast, and global changemaker using the knowledge of Ifa and the Orishas to impact young people in society positively. MKO, as he is fondly called, is the CEO of the Ifa Priest and Executive Director of the Ifa Priest School of Ifa and Orisha Studies, a non-profit organization committed to the promotion of African culture. In his soon-to-be-published book, Ifa, Afrofuturism and Tech, he argues that intergenerational dialogue is needed to sustain indigenous science and advance society. He is also the host of Africa's first Afrofuturist podcast, the Ifa Priest, a podcast focused on correcting the negative stereotypes about African spirituality. Hello, Oluwo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I was asking before we came on that, what would you prefer that I call you? And you said I should call you. What did you say? What did you say I should call you? Please explain.
Call me Oluwo Olawole Olakunle.
So I should call you Oluwo Olawole Olakunle.
Yes.
But that's a mouthful. So I'm going to be saying all of that while we're talking. So can I just, short form can be what? Oluwo. And you said that you had been given a title?
I've been installed as the first Araba of Iladoan in Ogba Island in Lagos here by the Esemikon family of Oba Mobadele Oyekon, the second. So proceedings are on the way for me to complete the necessary right to be installed as the Araba. But then the necessary things have been done and the documentations have been even signed. But in the interim, you can still refer to me as Oluwo. There's no.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. So once you now become that Araba, right? What's it called, Araba? So how would you now be addressed?
Yeah, I'll be addressed now as Araba. Currently, I'm being addressed as Araba by indigenes of Ilado. It literally translates to the fact that I am the spiritual head of Iladoan in Ogbe Highland.
Well, in the meantime, I'm happy to call you Oluwo. When next we see, you'll be Araba.
This is okay.
Okay, cool. So I'm really happy to speak to you because this is a conversation that has been on my mind since maybe I've been a teenager. I don't know. Obviously, I won't say child because I feel like even though as a child you're curious, it's when you get older that some ideas and questions become formed in your mind. So you are an Ifa priest, but before you became an Ifa priest, your background is you were part of the Deeper Life Church. So can you explain how that transition happened and what it was like growing up in your family, just briefly?
It's unfortunate that I have to go through all of this all the time.
Why do you think it's unfortunate?
Well, fortunate it is. Let me say it is fortunate. My story is quite interesting, considering that I was given birth into a Christian background and Deeper Life as such. And, the kind of transition I have to do, it is beyond the physical transition. It has to be a mental shift from a process of information processes that have been going on for years that I had to first of all erode myself of the quality of information that have been passed through to me from my parents, from my society, from my friends, from the society at large, from my immediate community. Along the line, I had to begin to search for God and search for myself within the confines of my environment. And I discovered that God is not as such far away from me. God is not in Israel. God is here with me. God is in my heart. And I discovered God through the lens of my immediate society, which is the African spiritual system, which is, so to say, Ifa. And along the line, I discovered that I was even ordained to become a priest. And it's a calling that I've had it's part of my destiny to lead people, to be able to help people solve problems, society solve problems, to be able to be a chart, to be able to lead a chart, or be able to help young people to grow in the journey of self-discovery as regards to African spirituality. At some point, because my mother was a teacher and my mother had a school, go and read. And at some point, I started, picking interest in literary works, started picking interest in Pan-African, books and all that. So I started reading about Kwame Nkrumah, I started reading about Walt Rodney, I read Dan Brown, read so many books while I was very young. My GSS, probably GSS1, I had access to all of these books. My mother studied mathematics, so for you to know how how strict she is.
That's amazing.
With books, And my father studied literature, so they had two majors in different courses as well.
So you were destined to be an academic child.
Obviously, I was born in the classroom. That was what I was told by my mother. I was born in the classroom. She was a principal of her own school, and she taught. She's still teaching. She still teaches today. So it happened that as time goes by, I began to question. Books opened my mind to certain realities and certain things that my environment wouldn't even present to me. So it led me to start asking questions. I started asking, who is God? That led me into critically studying the Bible. And in the process of studying the Bible, I began to come across different fallacious facts. We cannot call them facts because it is not something that how will I put it now? Some of the things that I have read in the Bible feels contradictory, and it led me to start asking more questions. And then that was why I stumbled upon so many books about African spirituality. It was then that I knew that there is a spirituality that is even defined by ourselves. At some point, we had to leave Meron to Songo, and that was the first encounter I had with African spirituality. I was living in an area where you obviously could not have access to a Babalawo or anybody, or I never knew what a Babalawo was. I never knew what an Olorija was. It was just, my routine was basically church, school, home, and the house, maybe once in a while, friends, But then when we got to Songo, we were not as caged as we used to be back then. I remember I was in GSS2 or so. In 2001, my parents had a very big challenge. It affected the finances of our family. It affected my mother's school. My mother's school was almost collapsed. My mother was sick. My mother was bedridden for about 6 months. She gave birth to a premature at that point in time. So a whole lot. It just happened like a flash. And at some point we were okay, about 6 months back, and 6 months after, we were just down the drain. The money was down the drain. Things had already fallen apart. My father was no longer with my mother. Things just didn't move the way it used to move, and it was a 180-degree turnaround. My mother had a property in Ijayi, 15 acres of land, and they took it away from her during the time that she was sick. She had about 19 rooms. She wanted to build a big school.
Who took it from her?
Well, the so-called Omoniles and the Obas and all that. It was a big gang up against her because she was a woman. She's a woman, rather. And they compensated her with 2 plots of land. There was no house for us to live. We were living in a rented apartment. They were told to quit. School property was taken away from us. A lot of shit happened then. And we had to move to Songo to find solace in Songo. And the little money that my mother had with her, she built a 2-room apartment in Songo. Then my father was no longer with us. And moving to Songo gave me my first experience with meeting a Babalawo. There was a Babalawo in our street, not far from my house. And in fact, all the chanting and the incantations we could hear, because there was no fence, there was no barriers that was impeding the sound from getting to us. We had access to all of these things. But we're only hearing it, I was entrapped by the beauty of what is happening. As against what I've learned, as against what my parents have told us about people who are ritualists and all whatnot. These are good people. These are, we knew ourselves in the society to the extent that the society knew that the children of the owls were children who would never tell a lie. And if within ourselves, if there's anything that is wrong and that we needed people as witness, as long as any of the Babalawo's children stood as witness, there's an unwritten verdict that it has to be true. And for crying out loud, I was in deeper life, and people didn't believe if I said the truth. Even my parents might not believe. And then the community at large, believed a child from a priest for saying the truth or so. And it showed that one way or the other, there's social values embedded in the culture, the social values embedded in the spirituality. And I was interested. Obviously, they used to bring food to us, which my parents reject almost all the time. And they know, that's the funny part, they know that we were throwing the food away, but they will still bring another day. So we were saying love your neighbor as yourself in the church. But then we didn't love our neighbor. Our neighbor gave us food. We couldn't eat the food. And they loved us as themselves because they were wishing us, they wanted us to eat. They were concerned about our health. They were sharing what they had with us, which is basically some of the things that we were supposed to be learning in the church. And then the practical aspect of what we are learning in the church was being, done by the traditionalists. It got me interested in getting to know whom these people were. And as much as I tried to know them, my mother was always my embargo. She didn't allow any of us. There was strict instructions not to eat from them, not to drink from them, not to mix with them, not to relate with them. But life happens whichever we want it. And then it happened that I had to start coming to Alakuko for schooling. Coming to Alakuko again, I had the opportunity of seeing the Babalawo's environment, the Babalawo's temple around me. I was taking Mulwe from Songwater to Alakuko. So I started lying to my parents, obviously. My apologies for that, though. I lying to my parents that we were doing lectures. I developed interest in it. So first of all, nobody preached Ifa to me. Nobody told me. It was not as if I was fixed with a big challenge or something. No. Because I was enthusiastic to get to know myself, to get to understand God within the prism of my own society, my inquisitiveness led me to discovering the beauty of life according to my own spirituality.
Do you think that you wouldn't have become an Ifa priest if your family didn't go through that challenge and you didn't have to move to...
Well, I feel that there's a way nature works, and there's a way... being a priest now, there's so many things I now understand. I now understand life differently. And I understand that there's a way nature works. And nature works in favor of some people, and nature works against some people. And then the way nature works, the way nature arranges events and circumstances in line with the end game. So I believe that nature intentionally worked in that for me to be able to actualize my destiny, because it is my destiny to become a priest. It's my destiny to put on the light for other destinies, actually.
Okay, that's really amazing. Nature. But so why is nature working against some people and is working for some people?
Permit me to recite a verse of Ifa. Ifa ni ètùtù ló láyé, ayé ò lóró kan. Ètùtù ló láyé ò ọmọ ìyá, ayé ò lóró kan. First of all, people don't understand that nature is an embodiment of all the energies of the Orishas, all the energies of everything. Every matter has an energy deposit. So nature is not just a particular matter. Nature is the embodiment of all the matters of life. And it is in relationship with the matters of life that you begin to understand what life has in stock for you. So nature really does not do bad for you or do good. Nature gives back to you what you deserve or what you give to it. It is obviously like garbage in, garbage out. So if you deserve death, nature will give death to you. If you deserve to be sacked at work, nature would obviously make sure it finds a way for you to be sacked. So, and if you deserve promotion, no matter how people try as much as possible to pull you down, nature has a way. And the funny thing is that nature is not time conscious. So whether you are not promoted this year or next year, nature will obviously find a way to ensure that you get promoted irrespective of the time. So nature rewards you for what you do, whether good or bad. It is a reflection of our own self.
I love that. That's great. Now, after you've aligned to your parents and you started exploring more about Ifa and the Orishas, which I'm going to get to, like, what does that mean, Ifa and Orishas? Because some people listening may not know what Ifa is and who the Orishas are. How did you now say, okay, I'm making the decision to no longer be a Christian and I'm now going to become an Ifa priest? And how did your parents receive that information?
Well, first of all, I didn't study Ifa because I wanted to be a priest. I detest being a priest because, fine, I was studying and I saw the priests. They were dirty. They were to some extent, my apologies. Some of them were dirty. Some of them were, more or less like societal rejects. But then the knowledge embedded in them is quite unique. These people do not directly represent the kind of knowledge they carry, the kind of energy they carry, the kind of fire in them. And as such, I didn't want to be a priest. If ever want Jiku, if ever want Jeja, how would I be going to the market to buy a yellow idea and all that? Is that, I studied electrical engineering in Yaba College of Technology. I studied electrical engineering. and I had wanted to be a petroleum engineer, but because of my O levels, my O level combination didn't meet up with the course I wanted to study, so I was picked to study geology then, but I couldn't make up after the screening exercise, so I had to come back home. And then after I got admission into electrical engineering in Yaba College of Technology. So what I'm saying basically is that I never really had interest in becoming a priest. So I was studying Ifa because I was inquisitive. It is interesting. I found solace in the temple. The moment I get into the temple, I don't seem to realize that I have any problem. I don't seem to realize whether I'm running late, whether I have to go home, I'm running late, my parents will talk, they might be worried. I don't care about anything. I just found peace. And the definition of that peace is something that I cannot even define up to date. It's just there. It is more or less like I am finding the real version of myself going to the temple. And I'm learning sacred words. I'm learning things that are, that are interesting. So as such, I didn't have that intent of becoming a priest. So at first I was hiding. I didn't want people to know. I couldn't put on the bracelet. I couldn't put on any artifacts or any materials that would sell me out to. But then some people began to know in the society because I was not studying in my community. So I used school as a disguise. After class, I go to the temple, stay there till late in the night. And at some point, the Babalawo was there. They were knowing because there are some things that I say and they're like, this is a deeper life boy. Comes. But then I didn't want anybody to know what I was doing. Until a very fateful day. Then I finished secondary school. I was studying. They didn't know till I finished secondary school. At some point, I have to leave Alapuko. My senior secondary school was along Ijoko Road. My clarion call was to always look for a temple wherever I go to. So I looked for a new temple. Started studying again. I think that was where, because it was not really far from my house, and that was where things started, getting haywire. At first, my mother had a dream. She dreamt that I was put on a white cloth, put like white regalia, and I was holding a lion cub. And at first, the imagination was that maybe I wanted to do Yahoo or I wanted to do rituals. As at that time, I already stopped the enthusiasm I had for church was already dead. So I was just going to church to make all things being equal, So, the interest was no longer there. While I was in, Deeper Life has a structure. We have a children's church, we have a youth church, we have a campus church, so you can be a pastor from our third born is currently a pastor in Deeper Life. So I was a pastor in the children's church, I was a pastor in the teenage, I was an evangelist, I was evangelizing. If I come to your house and evangelize Christ to you, you don't have a choice. You have to give your life to Christ. Like now. That was how I was really, really burning for Christ. But then the church noticed that this drive is no longer there. They felt like, well, maybe it was bad guns, maybe it was peer pressure. And then when my mother came around to discuss with the church the things that she was saying, they hoped, because we moved from Deeper Life English. Deeper Life has language district. We have Deeper Life Yoruba, Deeper Life English. So we moved away from Deeper Life English to Deeper Life Yoruba. My mother did that solely because of me, because in Deeper Life Yoruba, there was a kind of revival. They pray more. Oluwa, that kind of prayer. So my mother one day, my mother was already seeing that, this boy wants to turn to something else. So let's move. The English church was really cool. Father Lord. So she knew that Father Lord could not help my situation again. So she wanted something hot, something like fire. So we moved to the Yoruba, Deeper Life Yoruba. It was not far from our house, and they started the revival on me. The district coordinator and the pastor, they all came together. They picked up a date that they were going to pray for me. Aside from that, they picked up a date that they were going to do, how would I put it now? They were talking to me like a talk. They were questioning me, the kind of friends I had in school. I was a smart kid.
Like an intervention or some type of thing.
Yes, I was a smart kid, so I knew my way all around all of those questions. I knew how to maneuver. They knew I was maneuvering them, but then there was no thing to prove that. Yeah, so my mother started monitoring me. The first court was when I was writing my WAEC. So I was writing my WAEC. During the period I would finish exam, go to the temple. There was a temple in Gasland I was going to. I would go to the temple. My mother was monitoring my movement. She was monitoring some of the things I was doing. And then she discovered. That was the greatest, one of the the first time she was really disappointed in me. She was my father really didn't really, he was not really, picky about also such things. It was like, as long as he lives his life, the man didn't really have a problem. But then my mother, hell broke loose. I was excommunicated.
But did she see you? Did she see you going in there? Or what?
People told her.
People told her that.
Monitoring me, and then she saw me. She came to the temple, told them not to welcome to the temple. What blah 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 blah. She wanted to cause chaos, but she was afraid that they were going to do something. So that curbed the fear. Didn't really let her enter the temple to do anything. But she then at first now beating. But then at some point after the beating, she felt like this boy is already. So she was scared. She was afraid of me. She told we were 5 boys. She told my brothers they should not hit from me, they should not take anything from me. So I was excommunicated from the family. I was the firstborn. I could not give my brother ordinary sweets.
See my eyes wide open.
It could be poisoned. So there was strict measures. I was excommunicated from. I was disowned basically. My mother disowned me outrightly. Say, I'm not your mother. I don't know you. I don't care. However, even after the disowning, mother's love is always obviously still there. I didn't get admission for 5 years. So those times were times for me to really just study. So I was just studying Ifa. At that point, I really didn't care any longer. I wanted to know this thing. I was interested in it. People have done your worst. You have disowned me. And the Ifa house, there's always a room for you to sleep. There's always a food for you to eat. There's a shelter. So I didn't have a problem. I was eating falafel.
So you couldn't even go home.
Wow. Because not like I was banned from coming home. The body language was clear. You go home. They're scared to give you food. They are scared to use the plate that you have used. At that point in time, I was no longer afraid. I was using my necklace. I was using my regalia. Me too alone become something. So you talk to your younger ones and they are mindful of the way they respond to you. They pick their words. And the words you say, they look at it, they are mentally storing the words so that they can re-download it from my mother. So it was more or less like, no, I couldn't survive here. So that gave me time to study. That was one of the reasons why I could really say I literally sponsored my education. Fine, my parents were forthcoming, they understood the value of education, but then it really broke that relationship, and there's so many things I couldn't even really ask from them. So at some point, it was really a good thing for me because it taught me to stand on my own and stand on my feet from a very young age. At
any point in time, did you struggle with because I know that you said that your love or passion for the church began to wane, right? But when your mother said she was disowning you, did at any point in time you say, maybe if I go back to church, she would love me again or not want that never crossed your mind?
I didn't care. At that point, I was really a tough boy. I was really stubborn. So I was the black sheep of the family. So at that point, there was no going back. You have the worst, you have disowned me. What else am I doing again? So there was no stopping.
And how are things with your mom now?
It's my party now.
I love it.
It's my party, you just have to be successful in what you do, and then people will come back, people will come around. Truthfully, as it is today, it's only the pastor one that's not been initiated into Ifa. I've initiated every member of my family, except my mother and my father, and it is my mother that didn't really allow my father to. My father was interested. I came to know that my great-grandfather was a great priest in Ondo State, and, so many things that we didn't know. We were not, till about, say, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know Jack. I didn't know nobody of my family members. Because the notion that they are witches and wizards, the altars in our father's house and all that, so many things happened that really gave them the thought process to say that they were witches in our father's house. I didn't know my grandmother. I didn't see my grandmother until she died. So many things because of the stereotypes that has been accrued to African spirituality.
Yeah.
But then I thank God I was able to. I think it is just Ifa and God. God that really.
Yeah.
So you are a called child.
It's your destiny.
It's a destiny, actually, because I cannot really explain the rationale behind the journey.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, your father, your grandfather, you just found out that he was a Ifa priest. So definitely, that's such a phenomenal story. Like that, and that's just your background. Oh my God, we're like 30 minutes in. But what does initiation entail? Like you said, you had initiated your family besides your mom and your dad. What does that mean?
When I mean initiation, it means that we've done certain rites that allows us to be able to relate with the Orishas. So more or less like saying baptism. So with baptism, you are making your body, according to the Christians, you are making your body the temple for the Holy Spirit to come upon. So with initiation into Ifa, there are certain rites that are done for you that gives you credence, that allows the flow of the energies to flow through you, because obviously it cannot just flow through you without you agreeing to be part of it. So you asked earlier about Ifa and Orishas.
Yes, can you explain what Ifa?
There are, like the hand of man, there are different means to solve life problems according to how Ifa has taught us. And we have a bo, this sacrifice. And we have Adimu, which is going directly to a particular source where the problem can be solved. The way our spiritual pantheon is organized, we have ministers who Olodumare has embedded in certain energies or certain powers to help solve certain problems. So say, for instance, we have the Minister of Agriculture, which is Ogun. Ogun is the first Minister of Agriculture. Ogun is the first farmer on Lagbe Akoko. That same portfolio goes to Ogun when it comes to war. So Ogun ni Balogun, there is no Orisha, no matter how powerful that Orisha is, that will go to war without first getting outright permission from Ogun before going to war. So basically, what it means is that there are diverse solutions, and there are each Orishas, a particular Orishas, Egungun or anything, has a peculiar role to play in ensuring that mankind is at peace with itself, and the society is in order, and that life is going smoothly and all that. So we have Ori, which Yoruba says Ori about Boka, which is the leader of all Orishas. And we have Orishas. So in the Orishas, we have Orisha Obatala, we have Oshun, we have name all the Orishas. And we have Egun. Egun is the Orisha. And then we have Ifa. So Ifa basically is the knowledge portal through which the life is organized. Ifa ni imo ta fi gbe ile aye ro, imo ni Ifa, because tí kò bá ti sí ìmọ̀, agbára useless. So Ifa ni ìmọ̀ tó máa direct gbogbo àwọn òrìṣà tó ní agbára pé bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe máa lo agbára rẹ̀. Lágbájá báyìí ni kò lọ bá problem tó ní báyìí tó ní yìí, or lágbájá báyìí ni solution ẹ̀ wà.
To translate for those who don't understand Yoruba, Ifa is knowledge, and he's the one that gives. So it's like you said, it doesn't make any sense to have gifts but not know how to use them. So Ifa gives you the knowledge to know how to use and solve problems for other people.
Because Ifa is representing God. You know what I mean?
So Olodumare is the head,
yes,
and then the servants are the.
We don't have servants in our own spiritual pantheon. We have ministers, people who work for God, and then they might take their own charges, they might take their own what have you. Ogun can say, before I can go and do this work for you, I need the cockerel. And it does not mean that Ogun will not do that for you. So for everything that man needs on the face of the heart, God has assigned a particular energy to solve that problem. So what God really is basically needs from us is thanks and praise and worship. Basically, He told us my offending is just for us to worship Him. So every other thing has been designed, has been dedicated to a particular energy. It's left for you to now design, to now figure out which energy is required for me to solve this particular problem. And unfortunately too, it is not basically just to solve problems. Which energy is required for me to be able to do certain things, or to be able to do that or do this. So Ifa is to us, Ifa is Olodumare. It is the voice of Olodumare, because we cannot see Olodumare. So, but then the Orishas, we can also not see them too. But then we have access points. So what we call Orishas in our various shrines, they are just access points. Because if Orisha is Ogun, how can you have Ogun and I have Ogun and I have Ogun and everybody have Ogun? Ogun is not 1 million. Ogun is Ogun. So we have access points of Ogun in our temples. So if somebody says he goes to a Babalawo house and he has scattered the shrine, he has killed the Orisha there, you cannot kill Orisha. You have just scattered the access point. You have just distorted the access point. Although it has its own repercussions too, but then it does not mean that you have disguised or distorted the Orisha. So Ifa's knowledge is utilized in order to ensure that we know what is right, what is to be done, how it is to be done. It is the word of God that directs us, that stands as that gives us direction, that protects us, that helps provide for us through the competent knowledge that we need in carrying out some of the things that we want to carry out. So,
all right. Now, I watched one of your videos in passing about, you talked about issue. And for those listening, issue is, the translation is the devil or Satan. And in the video, you mentioned that we have that wrong. Issue is not devil or Satan according to Olodumare. So can you explain why we have that wrong?
Well, not like I'm doing advertorials on your program, but then my brand, the Ifa Priest, our theme of the month is issue is not Satan.
Yeah, please no, go ahead. I mean, you're talking about the work that you do, so go ahead.
So issue is not Satan. We do not have Satan in the framework of our own spiritual pantheon. I feel, I'm not sure to say it outrightly that it's intentional sabotage, but then I feel that it is Ajayi Crowther who misinterpreted or who misrepresented issue in the translation of the Bible, and thus it should become Satan's to the Christians. Obviously, as the Christians were trying to interpret the Bible into Yoruba language, they had to find a way of translating the Orishas. For instance, in the Bible, John is Johannu, Jesus is Jesu. How come Satan is not Satani or Satanu? How come Satan is issue? That brings us to say that. And because I'm not there when Ajayi Crowther wrote it, and I'm not there, I was not with those who actually gave me the contract, I feel that it is, personally, I feel it is intentional, but then I cannot say it is intentional because it's not a fact. And
can you explain who Ajayi Crowther is for people who don't know who that is?
Ajayi Crowther was one who translated the English Bible to Yoruba version. And that was the first recorded event where issue was referred to as Satan. We don't have Satan in our spiritual pantheon. We have, obviously, I know that what the Bible is trying to say is that as much as they are good, they are angels, they are demons too. Yes, polarity is the base of life. If God says that that is, I support two, so I don't support one. I support both the positive and the negative. Life is equated on the balance of both the positive and negative energy as enshrined or as taught by Ifa. So if there are good Orishas, obviously there are also bad Orishas. So what do we call those ones? We call them Ajogun. We don't call them Orishas.
Ajogun.
Yes, we call them Ajogun. We call them Ajogun Ibi. We don't say Ibi because we are so conscious of negativity that we say that that is, we are so much trained ourselves not to exhibit negativity. So instead of us to say Ibi, we go ahead to say Ajogun, or we won't go ahead to say Ifakumbu. We look for pseudo words or alternative words that directly relates to Ibi because we don't want to say bad things. Are you with me? So we have Efun and Ad.
Those are bad people.
Yes, those are bad energies. We have in the hierarchy of polarities, the greatest positive energy is Aiku, life. So if there is Ire, if you go for a divination, and if I say Ire, the greatest Ire is the Ire of life, the blessing of life. Whether be it in plants, be it in animal, be it in human, in any ramification you want to talk about, the greatest gift in life is life. So what is the opposite of life? Death. So the greatest negativity is Iku, Aiku, Awalaye, Awalaye. That's Aiku. And the greatest is Iku. Moving down the ladder, you can have Alafiara. The opposite of Alafiara is Arun. And so on and so forth. So for every positive...
So Alafiara, so you have to make sure you explain. So Alafiara is good health. And then Arun is sickness.
The opposite of good health is sickness, which is Arun.
Can I just say I'm proud of my Yoruba translation?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how my brain is just clicking.
I already said before I know that was what I wanted to say. I would have said no.
You said no.
So basically, there are concrete interpretation mechanisms. And fine, our spirituality talks a lot, hints upon polarity. So if there is Iku, down the ladder there is Iku, there is Arun, there is Ofu.
What's Ofu?
Yes, Ofu is wastage. Waste of life, waste of property. Maybe there's a fire outbreak and all of a sudden properties worth billions. So that's Ofu. There is Arunwo, there is Efun.
And these are all the negative polarities.
There's AD. So Efun and AD, even if you are to interpret Satan to Yoruba in our own cosmology, you can use F1 and AD because fine, they are the one who have come to force you, influence you negatively in the process or with the intent to kill, to steal, and to destroy, as recorded by the Bible. A phone comes to you and tell you that go and rape your daughter, and then you don't understand what comes to you until you do it, and the phone leaves you, and then you how come? Am I the phone will talk to you? They will force it. All of my me. God let me do what is negative. So you realize that is how Satan, according to the Bible, that's how Satan operates. Comes to you, suits you with good words, entices you, forces you either through force or either through means of persuasion to do things that are wrong, that you naturally not do. And then once you have done it, it leaves you to your fate to feel the wrath of God.
Okay.
So those are the things that
make up the negative polarities
of our own spirituality. So you cannot say that issue. What is issue in our own spirituality? Issue is Ọlá ìlú. Issue Ọlá ìlú. Oníbodè ọkọ irin. Àṣekàmásẹ̀. Ó bá ẹlẹ́kún níbi ẹlẹ́kún tí ń gbé ń sunkún. Ẹlẹ́kún sunkún láàárọ̀ yẹn ń sun ẹ̀jẹ̀. Ó bó onímí níbi tó nímí ti gbé ń ṣumí, onímí ń ṣumí láàárọ̀ yẹn ń ṣu fún. Ìṣòdàrà kò ní ohun tó ń tà lọ́jà nítorí ariwo ọjà ló ṣe ń lọ. So it shows that this is an Orisha who is much more concerned about you than himself. That is, he grieves more than they are grieved. So he grieves more than you that you are grieving. If you feel that he feels your pain much more than you. So he's a messenger who carry out the Ashe of Olodumare. So one of the things, is one of the closest, in fact, if not the closest, which are to Olodumare. Because he carries out the duties, is impenetrable, is incorruptible, is truthful, is yes, this is yes. He will not tell you yes today and tell you no tomorrow. He does not reject job offers. If you come to him with your problem, he find every means possible. So he goes forth and back in order to ensure that the messages that you need are being carried out. So he puts a share into our thoughts. He put a share into our wishes.
And a share is amen.
A share is more or less like amen.
Yeah.
He puts
socially be.
Yes. So he makes sure that some of our thoughts becomes reality. So he is a messenger. He's so many things. And in Yoruba land, we call him Ọlá ìlú, the wealth of our community. Because Only is the one who sees, first of all, if something positive is coming to us. He's the one who sees, first of all, if something negative is coming to us. That is the repellent of negativity. He repels negativity on our behalf. There are so many things. Yeah. And one of the things that is unique about Eshu is he's not a judge. He will never judge you. So even if you have bad intent, he will just tell you, let you understand the outcome of your bad journey. And then you say, I'm a messenger. Sent me to go and do this. This is it, this is it, this is it. Your judgment will be meted out to you in the right proportion. Yeah. So he does not have affiliation. And God, according to Ifa, God sits in the center of neutrality. Because God, the energy of God can be found in both positivity and negativity. It is in the balance of that you begin to attain godlike nature. As long as you can balance positivity with negativity. And Eshu is close to that, because Eshu can balance negativity and positivity. If you are doing negativity, he looks at you. And if you are doing positivity, he looks at you. There are so many people who are abusing Eshu today, and that does not mean that when they get to Eshu tomorrow, Eshu still stand up and does not look at that. So how can we now say that such a wonderful Orisha is Satan? No, it is derogatory, it is uncalled for, it is slander, it's malicious against Eshu. And we keep telling people, and unfortunately we realize that it is those stereotypes that they use in selling some of the things that they do in Nollywood, and it is intentional. It is really, really intentional. They want to keep it that way to sell their movies.
You've gone ahead. It's a question I have about that. But before you go on with that, I want to ask about your work as a priest on a daily basis. What does that entail? What do you do? I mean, besides praying, obviously.
My work as a priest is tedious. It's cumbersome. It does not really give me time to sleep. You know when I slept today. So... So
you said you slept at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I slept around 4 o'clock, and I had to wake up around 5 to come to the program. Now, the reason why I slept that time is because I had some students come up all the way from Ibadan to come and learn one or two things, and they were I couldn't leave them because they were leaving the next day. So, and I was busy all through. So, yeah, one of the things that my work entails is divination. A priest does competent diagnosis to know what could be. It's like a doctor who diagnoses a patient to know what could be wrong and then provide possible solutions that look like surgery to solve those problems. That's one. I wrote an article some times back. This title, Being an Ifa Priest in Contemporary Times, like being an Ifa Priest today. So it talks about who a priest is as against the stereotype that the media has given. A priest is a paradox of knowledge, it's a solution provider, it's a scientist, it's a philosopher, someone the government is supposed to be paying for for affecting society positively, helping society grow. A priest is someone who understands the relationship between the cosmic and the natural, and then interpret the languages on the communication of the cosmic to mere mortals, and helping them to become a better version of themselves. So as it stands, one of my work is to make you move from whom you are to whom you are supposed to be through sacrifices, through diagnosis, through different knowledge I have about Ifa, through the applications of those knowledge. And it's also my duty to help society grow in all ramifications, technology-wise, commerce-wise. So beyond, I want to marry, I want to make money. A priest is a library of unfettered, untouched, untapped knowledge.
That's fantastic and phenomenal. I want to be a priestess. Okay, now one thing.
You bring 16 goats.
Wait, so if I want to become a priestess, what do I have to do quickly? If I want to become a priestess, can you mamalati she?
Well, being a priest is free of charge.
Okay.
It's a service to humanity.
Yeah.
So we don't charge for studying. But we feel that the only thing you have to pay is in service. So because you have to serve before you can lead. So in serving to your leader or to your teacher, you learn through the ranks and you become a priest. So my first opportunity to have much more than one tutor. I can't recount the number of tutors I have, because by the virtue of where I studied Ifa, it is everywhere I get to. Who is the next tutor? The next bus stop, I meet with the next tutor, and he helped me. He broadened my knowledge of Ifa. He gave me Ifani akiri kofa, ento yaju kofa, atento jokunli kofa, and koma gbofa jula wọn lọ. So somebody who studied Ifa at home, and somebody who traveled far and wide to study Ifa, somebody is going to be much more vast than the other. So I didn't stay at a place to study. I studied far and wide.
So moral of the story is that knowledge is free to learn, but then eventually we have to pay 16 goats or something.
I know.
That's an exaggeration. Okay. Now, something that you said I thought was super fascinating that I saw in one of your videos. You said that you talked about people changing their names, and you said that people need to be careful doing that. Can you explain why? Can you just quickly explain why that is important?
Spiritually now, if you give birth to a child, according to the knowledge of Ifa, the first 3 days, there are certain energies around that child. There is a portal that is opened in heaven, the portal of communication. So we always do ikosejaye or isentaye within those first 3 days, because we believe.
What's ikosejaye?
Ikosejaye is trying to know about the child and the journey of the child as soon as it's being given birth to. So we do ikosejaye because we believe that the portal is still very open. So we can always, the questions that we ask, we can always get more concrete and more vivid or comprehensive information about this child. We don't know this child. We want to know this child. How should we relate with this child? How should we treat this child? What should we give this child? What are the things we do not give this child? What are the things that negate the energy of this child? So we are more advanced as a people for us to be able to know that at birth, we know what works. And from a Kosejaye too, we can decide by knowing the child, by knowing the energy embedded in the child, we can decide to say we can know. We have a very high percentage of knowing what the child might eventually become in life. So with that, with Ikosejaye, after 3 days, we need the first 17 days. We have Egbe Orun, always with the child. And they go back to heaven little by little. They don't all go back at once.
And Egbe Orun,
the astral mates. They have come to that journeyed with the child while he was coming to this world. They were the ones feeding the child. They were the ones ensuring that the child was in good health in the mother, and they were the one communicating with the child, so that the child does not even understand that it's on a particular journey. So it starts with food. So within those first days, you observe normally a baby's tendency of crying begins to increase from the 17th day upward. Because after the 17th day, the baby is left alone in this world. There's nobody around the baby. Are you with me? And the Kosejai that we have done tells us about the baby, tells us about the Orisha, and then we got to know a name. So the moment we give that child a name, it is recorded in heaven that this is the name of this child. And our fathers do not give, in this part of the world, we don't give names without meaning. In fact, we have family names before we have our own name. Our family names are used to tell us our background and our pedigree. We have Ogungbe Miro. Nobody needs to tell you that an Ogungbe Miro is from an Ogun lineage, so that he will not lose his own lineage along the line. So it's Ogungbe Miro. And for instance, there is Alabi, or Moti Alabi. Allah resonates with Orisha Obatala. So this child is the energy of Obatala. And the moment you call him Alabi, you have already stored our information there that this child is Obatala's daughter or Obatala's child. Like you're Obatala's daughter. The moment I saw you, I knew you are Obatala's daughter.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my! Wait! Wait, my name is Folashade now.
It's not they might not be able to. Yeah, you have Ade. Obatala owns Ade.
Obatala owns Ade?
Yes.
Folashade.
So
that is the moment you saw me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm a priest, and this is the black that you're wearing. It negates your energy, basically. So, well, that is not.
Oh my God! Did you know that someone told me that? Oh my God! Please continue.
So, basically, as an Alabi, I'm using Alabi as a reference point. Allah, in Yoruba represents white. Obatala is the Orisha of purity. Omoti Alabi, Omoti purity B. Are you with me? So Obatala has taboos. So which means that by virtue of understanding that name, you already understand the taboos of that child in Yoruba land. It is no longer today, the Yoruba land of today. Before, by virtue of your name, if you go to a friend's house, there are some things they will not even give you. Because they don't want to give you things that are allegorical to your body system. That are allergic to your system. So, but unfortunately, we don't know. And we say, Alabi, Orisha already knows that you are my child. And yes, my energy flow through you. All of a sudden, you just change your Alabi to Halams. And Orisha looks like, what's happening? First of all, the record that you have in heaven is altered. The guardian, because every one of us has a guardian Orisha. The guardian Orisha that's supposed to be around you becomes confused. Like, this is not our record. This is not registered. That's why we have rites that we do for childbirth. So all this is some record that we do now. We just give birth to a child, and then you just carry the child to the church and you start giving him name unnecessary. There are certain rites to be done because the names that we bear, the names that we use, there are names accrued to certain energies. And it is in the journey of self-discovery, you need to understand, who am I? In understanding whom you are, determines the kind of name you get. So one of the things that our parents do for us before we even grow up is understanding whom we are while we're young. So because by virtue of doing a Kosajaye for you, they know that the energy flowing through you is the energy of Obatala. And so they call you a name that is in sync with that energy, that will not... But the moment people call you, it gives the energy free flow over your body. You become radiant in all levels of your life, in your education, in your marriage, because the energy of your guardian Orisha ruminate around you, vibrate around you. You experience positivity all the time.
So in essence, if you go and change your name, you're changing the energy and the essence around you, and the people that are supposed to be working with you.
You are distorting the energy system, the energy flow of your body by doing that. That's it.
Wow. Wow.
And people just take name. A friend of mine gave out to a child, names him Dante. You don't know the meaning of Dante. Dante is an artist, an Italian artist that drew the Inferno, that drew the Dante's Inferno according to Dan Brown. However, you don't know because you said you are a ball-loving fan and you saw Dante as a good player. You want to give your child Dante. Did you know the meaning? And do you know how it resonates with your child? No.
But can I ask a question? My question is, why does it seem like these peculiarities are specific to Africans? Does this happen with children that are non-Africans?
The truth of the matter is this. The truth of the matter is that every race has a spiritual system ingenious to it, designed for it. The fact that God created you to be a French means that God knows that you communicate with him. And as such, God knows that the best way for you to communicate with him is through the French way. So the fact that I was born in Africa means that God understood that every means that I would want to communicate with him can be best found in the African way.
So if as an African, I want to now start communicating to God through the French way.
It does not mean that I will not be able to communicate with God. It means that it cannot be perfect. Because it is no longer ingenious to me. It is no longer automatic. It is now manual. So if like pray, fire die. It's not ingenious to us. It's not designed for us. You understand that language is the fulcrum of life. And God split the languages. It is in language that the culture is embedded. It is in language that spirituality is embedded. Every aeons or iota of life, all the fulcrum of life is embedded in language. Language is the fulcrum that holds our life. The way we speak, the way we talk, the way we eat, the way we marry, the way we do everything is embedded in our languages. And if as a Yoruba man, it means that everything I want to do is embedded in the Yoruba way. Will it be foolish of me to say that I'm speaking to God in the Yoruba way? No. So why will someone now tell me that speaking to God in the Yoruba way is demonic?
You know why I asked that question? Because I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being an African child that I don't see my European or non-African friends having to deal with.
They have to deal with theirs too, because
I don't see that though.
Because the reason why you don't see that is because their own way of life is not as the same as ours. What is ingenious to them? For instance, they are Christians. Jesus Christ is the progenitor of the Jews, the prophet of the Jews. So if you pray to God, if you reach out to God, it means that Jesus Christ came to explain to those people of that particular race how to communicate to God via that means. To show them.
So for us, Olodumare is the one that came to commune. No, Olodumare is the head.
Orunmila is our own progenitor. Every race has his own prophet.
Orunmila is progenitor for the Yoruba people.
For the African people.
For the African people.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I want to go on to taboos. You had talked about that earlier, about the fact that some people are not supposed to eat certain things. But what about, and because it messes up the energy in their lives, and that's what the God that they came from has said that is not going to be good for them. But what about if you don't know, and you're just doing your thing because you don't know? Why is that fair? In
the court of law, is ignorance admissible? No. So I think that answers the question. It is in your own interest to know. To know is to be free. So interest to know whom you are. How can you walk through the tides of life without knowing yourself? The first step to being the best of yourself in life is to know whom you are. It's in knowing whom you are that you know what works for you, what does not work for you, what is your taboo and all whatnot. So and the best way that to know whom you are is through Ifa. It is Ifa that can tell you whom you are. Ifa ni opitan ale Ife. Ifa lo le patan iran.
What does that mean? Ifa lo le patan iran?
Yeah, Ifa is the greatest historian. Ifa is the one that can tell the history of your great generation. Ifa can divulge information that you don't even think existed about you. Because Ifa is the means or the voice of Olodumare that I want to hear. So it is Olodumare speaking to you directly. So we have a means of communicating with God directly.
Now, one thing I want to ask again, kind of going back to my point about foreigners and people that are not Africans, is that I feel like in Africa, we carry religion on our heads. And it doesn't seem like that is helping the continent. Actually, let me scratch that. It doesn't seem like that helps certain parts of some countries work well, some countries don't work well on the continent. But when you look outside the country, I know that every country has its issues. I know that. But it seems like people that don't carry religion on their heads seem to thrive as a society. They seem to have politicians that somewhat care about their countries. Why does it seem like our religion story are the ones that are not moving forward the way we should be moving forward?
Well, first of all, you need to be able to understand that there's a very big difference between religion and spirituality.
Sure.
And you also agree that every race has its own peculiar spirituality that they are keeping. If you go to the UK, they have their own spirituality. They don't joke with it. There are some certain things that you cannot do in the UK. And there's certain things. Do you think it's just normal that they have anti-animal laws? animal laws. This thing is just anyhow. It's just because they are good people. People that have gone to certain wars to kill humans and are saying that don't kill pigeon. They think it is normal. So they have their own spirituality that they will not joke with. No race. It is only the race that jokes with its own spirituality. And your spirituality is your own formula of communicating with God. It is in understanding the alchemy of your own spirituality that you can begin to bring about inventions. That you can begin to invent, because inventing is bringing what is not, from bringing something out of nothing, bringing something out of the space. You are traveling out of time. You are moving ahead of time. So it is in true spirituality. It is through the conscious effort to get to understand, to communicate with the cosmic, to communicate with God more, that helps. If you look at all the scientists, look at Galileo Galilei, they were in the church. They were practicing beyond, forget the religion that they sold to us. Beyond the Christian religion, forget the Christian religion is a religion. A religion is a designed template for us to be organized. Emphasis on organized. So organized for what have you? I don't know. Emphasis on organized. However, beyond being organized, those who organized the religion for us took away the spiritual part of it and kept it for themselves. So if you say that Christianity is a fake religion, you are deceiving yourself. It is because we are only practicing this gospel part of it. The spiritual part of Christianity is still kept there, and it's being utilized by the UK, by the whichever country that is practicing Christianity. And you realize that they are practicing it, and it works for them because it is spirituality. It helps them to advance the course of their society. You have the best scientists, they are going to space. They are doing all of these things because with time they have a mechanism. A defined mechanism, a spiritual mechanism that takes them beyond what is normal. Because every invention, every advancement is not normal. So it is not left for us to come back to our own spirituality, leave religion. We have a problem. We are fasting and praying. In this part of the world, it's a taboo to fast. Because we believe that in fact, in Yoruba land, sometimes back, they still used to pray. We believe that it is during war that people fast. When there is no food, when people begin to need to start rationing food. So, but now, almost everybody don't get ulcer because everybody wants to fast.
Can I just say that I've always never been a fan of fasting because I like food too much. So thank you for proving my point. But sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just bringing out that path to show you that what works here may not work here. But we all have our own spirituality. Do not be deceived. Every religion, the Arabs, they understand their own spirituality. They are just selling religion to us. They have their own spirituality. They took out the spirituality out of that religion, kept it for their own use, and sold religion to us. So because they want us to be organized in a certain way, that's why religion is there for us.
Just to ask another question that's kind of tied to that, my mother feels like every politician in Nigeria, and I'm using Nigeria as an example because we are in Nigeria. She feels like every Nigerian politician who is going to be sworn into office they need to allow them swear by gods, because when you let them swear by Christianity or Islam, she feels like Allah and Jesus are very gracious, and that the other gods, if you're a liar or you're a thief, they will strike you. They will strike you down immediately.
First of all, she feels like there is no. I disagree with syncretism. We don't do syncretism here.
What's syncretism?
Yeah, we don't have gods. We have orishas.
Okay, right. Okay, so they should swear by the orishas.
Now that's one. Second is that it's
why
wrong.
Are you laughing?
That is only I've had that couple of times. It is wrong for you to now say that it's only when we want to swear in. We know, it shows that we know as a people the potency of our orishas. We know that what we have is potent. If you can decide to say, okay, well, let us swear by Ogun, we know that you cannot do Magomago with Ogun. So we know as a people, if we know that we cannot do Magomago with Ogun, and then how then do we decide to leave Ogun out of the picture and use the Bible that we know we can do Magomago with? Now, don't forget that I said earlier, it's not as if the Bible is not a spiritual book. The Bible is a spiritual book. But then what we are reading is the gospel part of life. So it might or might not have real spiritual essence, so to say. Not that there is no spiritual essence in Christianity. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. So as a people, in terms of leadership, we select the best of ourselves. So our leaders reflect the type of people that we are. That's one. Second is that aside from the fact that our leaders represent what we are, it is until we rediscover ourselves first. Ifa says in Ogbe Woni, Ifa ni Ogbe mule ki o to mode, ile ni ngbe ni kode o to gbe ni, ile ẹni là ń ṣọ́, ọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ ẹni là wò, ọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ ilé tá a bá ṣọ́, ọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ tá a bá wò òun ló máa ń ṣe ní ṣìbálà ṣìbolo. So Ogbe ile ni kò mú, come back, go home. It is the house, it is the passage that you have not cleared, that you have not treated well, that would disgrace you. So the first and the most important thing is to go back to God through the means that is designed for us in our own spiritual system. So through that, we can begin to make researches. We can begin to discover. We need to first of all start beginning to discovering ourselves in terms of in units. You should discover whom you are, discover who I am, and as such, we begin to. After discovering who we are, like when I say, "Come, this is Ikeja. Who owns Ikeja? Who are the Oniles in Ikeja?" Because we have discovered ourselves, we now understand that for every part of our land, we have Oniles. We'll go and meet them. They are there. It's because we don't acknowledge them. We'll just go and meet them. And we begin to have a cordial relationship with them. It is in the cordial relationship with them that they will not begin to tell us. There are some land that certain things are not done on it. Some things that certain things are supposed to be done on it because we don't know. We are just being carefree. We don't know what's happening.
That's fascinating, and I wish I could go on and on, but I want to get into some other points because I know you have to go. But to your point about religion and spirituality, a couple of days ago I came across a tweet from a lady named Ayomi Ditikpukpo. And she said, and I quote, "In Nigeria, we are compelled to choose between Christian and Islamic religious studies in primary and secondary school. No subjects on African religion. We say Christian and Muslim prayers on assembly grounds, no African prayers. Our schools are nothing but our enslavers' indoctrination centers." And a lot of people responded to those tweets, and I thought they were super insightful. One in particular to me said, "Chinese, Japanese, Indians, and so on are honoring their ancestry culture, religions, and are not cursed. Africans are the only continent that rejected everything about their ancestors. Africa's problems are a curse from our ancestors because we demonize them even in death." Because to your point about the fact that we don't know who we are, we have ignored everything about who we are as a people and what spirituality and religion and all these different things. So is that a view that you also?
Yeah, it's a view that I agree with. I wrote an article some times back. It is titled "The Education That Suits Us." Education that suits us. We do not have an education that suits our society. Because how can we have an education that is not, whose curriculum we are not designed by priests? Someone like me is supposed to be designing curriculum for the education sector. Because education is basically a knowledge that gives you a level playing ground to advance society. So, we're supposed to do Dafa. What type of mathematics should we study in the next 10 years that will advance our country for the next 50 years? What type of economics should we practice? Should we teach our children the next 10, 20 years that will advance our economy for the next 50, 100 years? Those are things that we should be asking. We are not asking them. Because you only see a babalawo as somebody who come and kill ram, come and kill goat, come and kill hen. Because somebody who is on a banana plantation and with red cloth, the same way Nollywood has already painted us. So I'm so sure you are shocked as you have seen me this morning. Putting on shoes.
I wasn't shocked. Why would I be shocked? I actually thought you were going to come with like not obviously I knew you were going to wear something like a regular person, but I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if he comes with like a cloth, like it's tied, and he comes with like what you call those things? Yeah, I'm in my car. I just don't fancy. It's in my car. It's there. I have regalias but then the reality of the matter is that it is whom we are, and we should not augment Nollywood stereotype version of events. A babalawo can be a calm, gentle. A babalawo is a peaceful person. And it only babalawo. Someone whose quality of logic and reasoning is of high level that can become a babalawo. So, as a people, I think that those stereotypes are changing, and with time to change. We are already on the verge. That's the reason why
I'm seated here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, whether you like it or not, you're part of the journey. You have contributed, no matter how big or small it is, you've contributed your quota to ensuring that the stereotypes and the misinformations are corrected and are repropagated.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Now, I wanted to also quickly just ask about one of the things I noticed on Nigerian Twitter. When there's an accident in Nigeria, I don't know if you may have an insight to this or not.
I saw a tweet where somebody was saying that it was issue that was behind the truck that fell down in Ojuelegba.
So
first of all, it's a misinformation, because what that shrine is not Issue Shrine. There is Elegba. There's Elegbara. Elegba is Egun Oshuni. Elegbara is Issue. And that place, it is called Ojúbọ Elegba, not Elegbara. So Ojúbọ Eguni. So you can see that even those who tweeted about it, who talked about it, they don't even know Jack. You know, this person is talking from a misinformed point of view. That's one. Secondly, is this: if we say Eshu is Olailu, grieves more than they are grieved, how will Eshu now kill people who is grieving for? You know, and I don't know. Our psyche has really, really been badly damaged as a people. So we don't even know who we are. That's a crux.
Okay, I appreciate that perspective. And final question before I go on to you talking about the Ifa Priest podcast is, why don't we see many traditional religious places publicly? Because a lot, as you know, whenever in particular in Nigeria, if you're driving across the place, you see mosques, you see churches that are everywhere. Well, but with traditional places of worship, you see that it's either somewhere that's far away. You can't really.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
When you talk about far away, a lot of people go to Ifa temples or shrines or for very selfish reasons, and as such, a lot of people come to our temples. They come under disguise of they come with disguise. They don't want people to know that they are coming to the temple. So majority of people who go to temple don't even want to go to a place that is close to them. So people go to far places. There is a temple beside you. Mention where you live. I'll tell you where a temple is around you. So
Omole phase 1. Omole phase 1.
There's a temple in Omole phase 1. There's an Ifa Priest. I can bet you. There's Ifa Priest in CMD. So Omole phase 1 is not far from CMD. So name another one. So basically,
Banana Island.
What I'm saying, Yakba. What I'm saying in essence is that, number one, our spirituality, we believe that Ori eni lo ma gbe ni pade alawo ere. This your head knows who has the right solution to any particular problem you have. So that is why a Babalawo does not use Aworu. We don't forcefully bring people to our temple. We believe that your Ori will bring you. Any place that you are forcefully bring, any spiritual house that you are forcefully, because the use of jazz is by force. Somebody who does not even have the intent of coming to your place, something just drag the person down to your place. It's a spiritual force that you have used. So that is why churches and all that, to me, they are no longer spiritual ground. They are now marketplaces. The only places where we force crowd to come to is the market. So the moment you now start using a jazz, using this yarimole to attract people to your temple, it's no longer the house of God again. Because why should you be forced to come to the house of God? So it is now a marketplace. That's why you see churches, you see millions, you see a pastor say he wants to build a 100,000-seater church and all that. This is because they know that they have quality jazz that they obviously come and do from us that will help them forcefully attract. You
sound like my family friend, that's what he says. He says that all the time, but continue.
So because they know that they will come to us, and by virtue of our own sacred oath too, if you have a problem, we have to solve it for you.
So if someone should come to you for something that's bad like that, like someone says,
no, it's not bad.
Okay, let's just say someone comes to you and says, Oluwo, I want you to do something for me that is going to harm someone because the person has harmed me. How do you know the person is lying or telling the truth?
Well, first of all, is that we don't mind Nollywood. Nollywood made you believe that the moment you get to a Babalawo house, all your enemy will die. It's only in Nollywood that you see somebody who is poor today and goes to Babalawo house, the next slide is driving a Lambo. That is one of the reasons why most Yahoo boys, everybody wants to go to the Babalawo's house, and people are not even ready for the process. A Babalawo is not a magician. A Babalawo does certain processes that changes the cause that affect nature towards you, that direct nature towards you positively. So if you now feel that you want Papa solution, it's not Babalawo that you come to. That's one. Secondly, is that Babalawos are ministers of God. Real ministers. I'm not talking of yeye cut and sew ministers. So I'm talking of real ministers of God. And as such, they have extreme fear of God in their heart. Fine, they have the powers to do and undo. However, the host of their office will not allow them to do such things. I'm not talking of Babalari Wozu. I'm not talking of Babalawo. I'm not talking of those who call themselves Babalawos, but they are not Babalawos. Those who use Babalawos, use the name of Awos to defraud people, and those who scams or online or what have you. I'm talking of genuine, certified Ifa priests who have gone through the tenet and the trainings of Ifa. If somebody has gone through the tenet and the training of Ifa, the person hardly have somebody who has offended him. Because why would you offend me? People really offend me. Because I've actually gone through the tenet and the training of Ifa. The same way. So why will now if people don't offend me, why will I now be behind the fact that people should now do something to hurt people? No. Babalawos don't do that. I don't know of Afars or pastors.
Okay, all right. Now, final question is, let's talk about Ifa Priest Podcast. Can you briefly talk about what that is and how where people can find it?
It's an Afrofuturist podcast. In fact, it is the first Afrofuturist podcast. It's an insightful podcast that is aimed at correcting these many negative stereotypes about African spirituality. So if you have listened to the podcast, you'll notice that we are breaking down the myth and the stereotypes about Ifa, Orishas, and African spirituality generally for people who do not really have the opportunity, like myself, to go to a temple. People who don't even know where a temple is. They should be able to learn and be able to discover, understand the society that they found themselves in, beyond what the stereotypes and the misinformation that they've been fed over time. So we break down the cumbersome or the mythology or the myth that you have upstairs, that whether Nollywood has created in your head, or whether many years of misinformation, or whether family or what have you has created in you. We break it down, we make you see things, and we give you genuine, informed, relatable information about African spirituality. The Ifa Priest Podcast is on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on Google Podcast, it's on all platforms. Just go there and type the Ifa Priest Podcast, and we have different every episode. We've talked about Oshun feminism, we've talked about Ogun, the correlation with technology, we've talked about Ori, we've talked about Ifa, we've talked about so many things. We've talked about Eshu, and the way we do the podcast is fascinating. We try as much as possible to inculcate a live program into it where people can be able to ask questions and make it much more interactive. I just do not want it to be Oluwo just talking. So we've done that, and we are growing, we are doing more better, and with that, I've had a lot of testimonies. A lot of people have reached out to me via mails from different walks of life to say, come Oluwo, this podcast I've been open my ears, my eyes, and my body to information that I do not even know existed.
Awesome. And as we come to a close, I'm sure that there are people who are looking to know more about African spirituality and African religion. What advice do you have for them?
Well, most importantly is to know oneself, and you cannot know yourself through the prism of another man's lens. So you need to look yourself in your own mirror, and then it is through your mirror that you'll be able to see yourself clearly, able to see your weaknesses, know your strength, and then know how to capitalize on that. So my advice is for them to listen to the podcast. If you listen to the podcast, you would determine whether you should be convinced or whether you should find more information about yourself. But then you cannot decide that, you cannot agree that every information that has been fed to you from birth is real, is genuine, and is factual. You need to challenge, especially from 18 years of age, you need to begin to challenge the information that you've been received. How truthful are they? Because even our parents might be giving us information that are not right. They don't even know it is not right, and they believe it. They've been fed by it. So maybe society pushed the information upon them. Maybe their community or religion or work placed those information upon them. We need to break out of forceful information that have been embedded upon us for over time. We need to ask questions. We need to begin to checkmate the information that we have, fact check them. We need to start using Peter Obi tactics, go and verify. We need to start verifying all of the information that we are, whether it is true or whether it is not true, the information that we received. We need to know, because to know is to be free. Aboru, aboye.
I love that. I love it, Oluwo. Now, if people want to find out more about you and the work that you do, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on social media. My personal Twitter handle is MKO_Olawole at MKO_Olawole. You can also reach out to the brand. Basically, if you want to get more information about the brand, is at _the Ifa Priest on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. On Facebook, my name is Oluwo Olawole Olakunle. On Instagram, it is at MK_Olawole. And you can also reach out at www.ifapriest.com. Because if you're looking at a number to call, it is you can reach out to my assistant. You obviously have to reach out to my assistant first. She's a female, so her name is Bemisola. You can reach out to her on 090-78444-865 on WhatsApp, on chat, to see how you can reach out to me.
Okay. Oluwo, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to calling you Araba.
I'm an Arab already. So.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you said that, you know. The glamour, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to Oluwo Olawole Olakunle. Don't forget to check out his podcast, the Ifa Priest Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating wherever you listen to your podcast. It is most appreciated and will allow us get discovered by more people. Thank you so much in advance. This episode is edited and produced by Folashade Anozie. Our theme song is by John Akinola. Finally, you can check us out on social media. We are live at Dotted Bridges Podcast. Thank you for listening.